All right, welcome back to sort of a different sort of episode here on the Wrath of Laughing at Liberals. We'll be going through this news article here. Now, this was from a couple of months ago. Jury acquits ICE protester accused of assaulting Portland news cameraman. Now, I won't play this video here. I'll put a link to it here in the description. Let's see here. This was May 20th, 2019. Multnomah County jury acquitted a 33-year-old woman of charges that she assaulted a TV news cameraman during a protest last summer. That would have been summer of 2018. Outside the Southwest Portland offices of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That was the big ICE encampment where the protesters had basically occupied the ICE building by surrounding it for several weeks and building these campsites and whatnot. Very reminiscent of the Occupy Portland days and the Occupy movement in general. Let's see here. Jurors found Danialle Inez James not guilty of the charges of fourth-degree assault and harassment of KATU cameraman Carter Maynard. Prosecutors contended that James slammed a wooden gate into the back of Maynard's head on June 28th, and that she appeared to be motivated by her hostility towards the media. Now, this seems to be somewhat similar to what happened to me. I was a news cameraman out covering a protest when a gang of thugs decided to get physically assaultive towards me. But the prosecutor said I was the one in the wrong for defending myself against them. So by applying those same standards, then this would make complete sense that Danialle James has the authority to use force to prevent a news journalist from being at the protest. Let's scroll down a bit more here. James, her defense attorney, contended she hadn't swung the gate into the cameraman. They claimed the cameraman conjured up the story. Yet there was no dispute that James was unhappy with the TV coverage. James testified that she thought showing TV images of the immigrants attending the protest would endanger their lives. So she tried to sabotage the efforts of the KATU reporter and cameraman by repeatedly saying expletives in the background as they tried to do live broadcasts. Jurors watched video of James exclaiming, "F the media," calling KATU employees maggots. It's remarkably similar to what happened to me when the protesters had surrounded me, screaming, "Get the F out of here." Let's see here. Jurors also watched footage recorded by Maynard himself, the cameraman. The gate was made from a wooden pallet and was part of a fence bordering the protest encampment where James and many others had stationed themselves. Maynard, during more than 4 hours of testimony, Maynard, the cameraman, said he saw James's hand on the gate just before and after he was struck from behind. He said the impact left him with pain, dizziness, headaches. Even a Coin 6 cameraman saw it. See here, medical professionals diagnosed him with concussion, blah, blah, blah. The defense attorney told the jurors that the cameramen were lying. It's ridiculous. Is there any indication that he's dizzy while he's filming? He kept going for 1 hour and 42 minutes. The prosecutor said Maynard's symptoms worsened over time. And then Danialle James changes her story here. She says, "To be honest with you, I was grateful for the media coverage. People trying to show the world what was going on." Upon hearing the 6-person jury's verdict, James sobbed and embraced a crowd of supporters. "Those blanks tried to pin me. Not guilty, not guilty." Maynard wasn't present. Let's see here. Now, Genevieve Rheaume, I am not sure if that's how you pronounce it. She was the KATU reporter, as in the on-camera personality that Carter Maynard was there with. Described what she said were physical and verbal assaults on multiple journalists by multiple protesters that day. "This treatment is unacceptable and will not be tolerated," Rheaume wrote. "We are here to do an important job, to talk to all sides, to find the truth and report the facts." Well, that's interesting because KATU and the other mass media people, mainstream media people, couldn't wait to hang me when I was attacked by protesters at a protest in 2016. They painted me out to be the bad guy and the violent protesters to be the poor innocent victims. Now they're taking a different stance when they're the ones who are targeted by this. Maybe if they weren't piling on me when it first happened to me, maybe that wouldn't have fueled the flames for the protesters and further emboldened the protesters to do the same to KATU and KGW and Coin 6 as they did to me. So let's see here. According to the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker, 42 journalists were attacked in 2018, 10 so far this year in 2019. But that's all legal in Portland, Oregon, thanks to the case of State versus Strickland, me, where it was ruled to be not unlawful for a gang of thugs at a protest to use force to stop a cameraman from being in a public area filming a public protest. Now let's scroll back up here because there's another very interesting thing. The prosecution contended James was familiar with the gate and its ability to swing to a close because she'd been at the camp for days. At the very least, James acted recklessly in letting it hit the back of Maynard's head, said prosecutor Kate Molina. Wait a minute, Kate Molina? She was the prosecutor in this case? She was the same prosecutor in my case, where she was arguing the exact opposite of what she's arguing in this case. In this case, with Danialle James, she's saying it's unlawful for protesters to use physical force against journalists who are covering public events. But in my case, she was making the point that that's perfectly acceptable. It's not reckless behavior. It's not violent behavior when a gang of thugs use physical force to prevent a journalist from being in a public area. In fact, I've obtained the audio from the Danialle James trial, and in the next episode of The Wrath of Laughing at Liberals, we'll compare and contrast the two faces of Kate Molina. One Kate Molina, who says it's perfectly lawful for protesters to do that to cameramen, and it's the cameramen who are guilty of crimes for trying to stop the protesters from doing harm to them. And the other Kate Molina, here from the James case, making the arguments that the cameraman had every right to be in that area filming the public event, and that the protesters did not have the right to use physical force to stop him from being there. We'll examine that in the next episode of The Wrath of Laughing at Liberals.